Hey everyone, it's your girl Maddie here, aka Beaver Mosh, here today to talk to you about Loud or River by Sonja, coming off of Cruz del Sur Music. Now, I might potentially be, but I don't think so, a little late to talk about and review this album in particular. Loud or River came out at the end of September of this year. But at the time of recording this video, my channel is still less than 2 weeks old. And this album is older than my channel. So, just by how the nature of how time works, I guess, I couldn't talk about this at the time that it came out. Now, with that said, since Loud River has been released, I've grown quite fond of it, to say. And to the extent that I thought, for my own personal reasons, it was important for me to talk about it with the viewers of this channel so far. And I thought it was appropriate to do so, even if it isn't as timely as maybe some of the other reviews I've done so far. Now, Sonja plays a very glam infused brand of heavy metal music. A very melodic heavy metal, and one too that also is heavily inspired by more gothic rock. Now, to give a little context here, it is, I feel, pretty important to talking and understanding this record. The vocalist and guitarist for Sonja, Melissa Moore, was previously the guitarist for the black metal band Absu. Now, when Moore came out as trans to her bandmates, all but one, a live drummer who followed Moore into this project and is the drummer here, the rest of the band members decided the response was to kick her out of the band. So, yeah, Absu can just go fuck right off. Let's talk about the music here. When the candle burns low, the first track here, things start off with this very patiently building, ominous intro, and Moore comes in with these very echoey vocals that kind of just creep in and are gradually met with these very crisp, shimmering guitar riffs. And that all kind of foreshadows and leads into this really big, catchy, just kick-ass chorus. Nylon Nights is the introductory single for this album, and it's just a shit ton of fun, let me tell you. I love Moore's more playful vocals here. You get these very driving, more vintage, classic sounding heavy metal riffs. The drums add a considerable amount of bite to this track. Production wise, on this track, and really the whole album as a whole, is really cloudy. There's a heavy use of reverb that's used very strategically. The moodiness of this album, and it is a very moody album, is emphasized a lot on Pink Fog. More comes in with these darker post-punk leaning vocals that really sell her sense of longing and loneliness that you get in the lyrics. Wanting Me Dead is one of the faster, heavier cuts here. But with that being said, it actually leads into probably the most memorable and probably most intense passages on the album. For a bit, the music quiets down a little bit and more softly comes in and begins the closing refrain that repeats a number of times here, and she sings, she's gonna be killing people. The only way she's gonna get through the night, which, wow, what a line. What an intense line. And the music here is darker. The guitars are not as bright as they were previously. Vocals become more sinister. And the drums do so much with very little here. They never really overtake the track, but with that injects a lot of presence here. Fuck Then Die is just a heckin' tune and a half. You got these punkier, really memorable riffs and this hooky chorus, and the drums, damn, let me tell you, they are really taking names here. There were multiple times when like focusing my listen on the drums here that I was like, wow, what a fill. Wow, I am loving what they're doing here. And that it happened over and over again. There's a lot of diversity and variance in what the drummer is doing on this track and the album in general. Daughter of the Morning Star boasts this big, massive instrumental part. It's the best example of this band's sheer musicianship. I dare you to try and listen to this track and not bang your head and be tempted to throw the horns up in the air. I don't think you can do it. I don't think it's possible. The closing title track here is such a solid anthemic way to end the thing. It really sticks the landing. You get emphasis more on what I've already mentioned, these bright yet heavy guitars that I think are one of the big kind of separating characteristic of this album that really gives it its own unique quality, like a real selling point that I have to talk about here. Now, Sonja, you could talk about this band and list them and label them amongst this new crop of bands that revisit and revitalize and play this more traditional, classic, old school heavy metal sound. And if you were to do that, I don't think you would be wrong. That's factual and pretty accurate. In fact, some of the mastering work here is done by Arthur Risick. And if you're unfamiliar with that name, Arthur Risick is part of multiple bands that are big seminal names within this new movement of newer traditional sounding metal bands, mainly Summerlands and Eternal Champion. If you haven't heard Eternal Champion's Ravening Iron, go listen to that. Go do that right now. That is your homework. Because goddamn, this is already a classic. But Sonja, if you were to talk about Sonja as simply another of these newer, older sounding, not to sound redundant, heavy metal bands, I don't think that would be a complete way to talk about Sonja, because Sonja really does their own thing. And in fact, Sonja actually forgoes a lot of standard heavy metal tropes you would expect from a record that labels itself a heavy metal record. For example, there's no guitar solos on this thing. Sonja sells itself and makes itself really unique through the atmosphere that I had talking about. There is a liberal use of delay and echo and reverb here that if could have really made a lesser album not sound great, but here it gives it such an atmosphere. This thing is dreamy at times, while not ever losing its cutting edge. I love the gothy, glossy things that they inject here. The songwriting is top notch. The musicianship is phenomenal. Louder River, I can't recommend this enough. It's just such a fun, ass-kicking, heavy metal album. I love this thing. I really love this thing. Those are my thoughts. Hit that like button if you would be so kind. Consider subscribing if you want to see more. Leave a comment. What did you think of this record if you've heard it already? Do you have anything you think I should review after this? Please give me any feedback. You can follow me on Twitter. The link to it would be in the bio of this channel. Keep it metal. Thank you for watching. This is Maddie, aka Beaver Mosh, signing off.